Hey there, and welcome to Up Next in Commerce. I'm Stephanie Postles, CEO of Mission.org, and today I'm excited to get into the world of visual commerce. Brand websites are often pretty similar. There are product pages, pictures, carousels, and maybe even video if they're feeling a little fancy. That's worked for a while, but Matt Gorniak, the CEO of Threekit, says it's time to up the ante. Threekit is creating a whole new category for brands who want to get into visual commerce and bring 3D and AR into the fold. Matt talks about what exactly that looks like on today's episode. Before we jump into the podcast, I want to quickly thank our sponsor, Salesforce Commerce Cloud. If you're looking for the #1 platform for all things commerce, there's no better choice. So definitely go check it out at salesforce.com/commerce. Matt, welcome to the show. Excited to have you here.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
So before we dive into your work at Threekit and what you're up to there, I was actually hoping you could kind of quickly go through your background because you have a pretty impressive one, if I must say. I mean, you've had companies acquired that you founded. You were, I think, the co-founder of G2, a lot of other things in between. So I was hoping you could kind of highlight your entrepreneurial journey and then we can get to where you're at today.
Yeah, no, happy to share. I mean, the short story is I actually grew up in Poland behind the Iron Curtain. And so tech for me was actually a way into do cool things and try things out. But also as an immigrant, you're always like late to the party. So you kind of go where stuff is new. And so tech's no longer that new anymore. But like 20 years ago, 25 years ago, that was sort of like new fields. And you guys know about the internet? That was a cool thing back then.
Pretty cool.
So, yeah. And so it's in tech, obviously it's never ending. There's always a new thing. That's my background. Then I grew up in Germany, had a great time out there, came to the States at 17 and went to college and got myself a job, which was really exciting and at a very large company in management training. And it was just a great, wonderful career ahead of me, but tech was really something that I just wasn't going away. So I made the switch, that's sort of part of my passion is to like, hey, that was kind of a scary thing. You jump in, you don't know what you're doing, but it's just a great place to be. And anyway, that got me started with a good friend of mine that I met serendipitously through bulletin boards. Back in the day, it was cool. We had phones. We had 3 lines. That was really cool. So 3 people could talk at the same time.
That's still kind of cool. I mean, it's still hard to do on an iPhone, let's be honest.
Right. Anyway, I can go on forever and I won't, but it's more like, that was my first foray into a startup called OctaString, which my friend Clayton Donnelly, who's now an executive at a large company, kind of a genius developer. He built and we start selling globally. And it's like a company. I was out of my bedroom, my parents' house, and that kind of opened up eyes. Like, wow, tech. You can send bits and bytes anywhere in the world. People can make payments globally. You solve these problems. Wouldn't that be like, that's just amazing. Like, whereas my short career background was with manufacturing company, amazing company, but you got to build these tractors or whatever. You have to like have plants and capital equipment and you want to ship them, anyway, you have to pay all this taxes and anyway, internet's just like, wow, there it is. So that got me into tech and I've never looked since back. And one of the pivotal moments in my life was meeting my business partner, Goddard Abel, and also Joachim Klein at Threekit. And we built this company, Big Machines. Goddard was actually Chris Schatz, another business partner. They were the founders. And then we kind of started building companies and we love building tech ever since. And Big Machines, Steelbrick, G2 is in Chicago. I co-founded that and Steelbrick and now Threekit. So net, we love building. We love finding people that want to build, bring, really change something out there. And yeah, that's kind of.
So Steelbrick was acquired by Salesforce, right?
Correct.
And then Big Machines was acquired by Oracle.
Right.
Were you building with the intent to be acquired or like, how did you, I mean, when people hear that you had 2 of your companies acquired by 2 very large companies, they're probably like, Matt, what are you doing? Give me some secrets. How did you even think about starting these companies? Like, what did that actually look like building products twice that got acquired?
You're right. So actually Big Machines was founded by Goddard Abel and Chris Schatz, who again, the reason I bring it up, they're good friends and business partners. And I would say there was no intent to sell. And this is not a bravado statement of like no intent. It just, I think we were so heads down just building, like good things will happen. That's probably the advice I give others. Like, obviously, if someone really comes up and offers you a way to bring your vision to life in a bigger way, or it clicks really well, and obviously, yes, financials have to be right. That the point I just made isn't about some proud statement like no, never that. I mean, some people have that view, but I think day to day, it's just about, you have a vision. The joke is it takes 10 minutes. Let's make it happen. It's the hard part. So I would say it's a good chunk of grinding and just building and then good things happen. That's kind of what I feel about. You build something meaningful, purposeful, and that's the way to get there. I think
Mhm.
focusing, we've never done it, but I think focusing on just getting to some outcome. I don't know how that works. That would feel like you would make strange choices and then
Yeah.
probably get disappointed, be my guess. So this is actually kind of an extension of Big Machines and Steel Brick. And so the short story is, as we're solving these problems, you just have to take a step back and from our perspective, we are helping these large manufacturing companies and then software companies, industrial companies, and they get into like furniture, generate a quote. And a quote is a massive parts list that the system allows you to very quickly put together with rules. Again, it's very obvious stuff. As a user, it's like, oh, thank you. But there's a lot that goes in there, defining products, whatever. So that the connection with Threekit is, we were looking at this and I'm like, when are the customers actually going to want to see the product? Because remember, that was like a really good step forward, but you never see the product that actually is being sold to you. That's the B2B side. You go to e-commerce, by the way, let's pretend you're about to buy these headphones. Let's not get into brands or that microphone. If it has significant options, the website actually does not represent the actual product you're buying. 99% of the time, it's a picture. We have headphones. It's a picture of, we have microphones. And if there's options involved, you kind of make it a leap because
Mhm.
you're picking options, but it's like, well, just trust me. And then a lot of folks have that experience, which is you have a blue microphone, I guess yours is black, and maybe you have like dark blue. Is that really the one I'm getting? And
Mhm.
let's say the picture carousel in e-commerce, like you've got a white one, a black one, a green one, because it's stock photography. What is this? So that was the genesis. Like at some point, customers, buyers are going to want to see it. And
Mhm.
we've been on that pretty early on. It's about visual commerce, configuration, like seeing, experiencing the product digitally. Then obviously with the pandemic that accelerated, but that was the genesis. Like there's something there that I can tell you how we got there, but we're like, ooh, like when's the right time and how do we solve it best? But we saw it, build up over years now.
So, how did you know it was the right time? Just from, you have obviously a lot of experience of maybe being too early in certain cases, but still knowing it's a good idea. Like, how did you know when it was the right time? Because when I hear it now, I'm like, yes, obviously that is like needed. I mean, I just thought about this Murphy bed I bought where I was asking about what kind of, metal attachments I wanted on there. And
Yep.
every time I would change it, it wouldn't change. And I'm like, well, I guess I'll end up liking this one. I don't know. It's not showing it to me.
And by the way,
But see,
I'll tell you the answer, the secret. I'll tell you the
hear it.
secret. No one knows, first of all.
Yeah.
But you have to kind of bet, I'd
Mhm.
say, I think over time you hear it. And it was basically from our perspective, when we were in projects, in B2B projects, it started to come up more. And I
Mhm.
think you have to have your ears attuned to that question to see a pattern. But at some point, I mean, you kind of don't know.
Mhm.
Now, what we do know is that trend's inevitable. So it's just a question of acceleration. Obviously, who could have foreseen the pandemic, right? Which is a
Mhm.
massive accelerator. So I'd say you have to kind of have there's no secret. That was a joke, obviously, but like there is a sense of patterns. And then you kind of bet, you
Mhm.
know, and it could be 5 years too early. It could be 5 months too early. There's no knowing.
Yep.
But your Murphy bed is a perfect example because the microphone is not such a high consideration. Well, maybe yours is
Yeah, this one's
99.
a little pricey.
I'm sure it's a little pricey, but like, let's pretend it's $99, which I'm sure it's not.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, I'm invested in this, but a bed, furniture, big piece of product,
Mhm.
sporting goods, golf clubs, that is a big deal. Like, how do you return a Murphy bed?
I actually have no idea. It's a sunk cost at this point. I'm like, it's
Right.
going up on that wall whether I like it or not. So, okay, when seeing this evolution happen? And you guys now have this awesome company. How do I think about all the things that you offer? I mean, when I was looking, it looks like it's definitely in an augmented reality type of fashion. It's like 3D. It feels like it's, could be in your room in a way. You can have the colors changing. Are there other things that you offer? Or maybe tell me exactly what your offerings are.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I would say like augmented reality, virtual reality, renderings,
Mm-hmm.
3D, those are experiences.
Yep.
I'll talk about that in a minute. And I think that the true like unique capability that we have is the ability, which we call visual commerce. We want to create this category, which really is about bringing your product to life digitally. So that's really the big, all these different experiences. So, and the only way to do it is to really through visual configuration and automation. I'll give you an example. If you had that chair behind me, you had 1,000 covers, right? Just
Mm-hmm.
colors, times different legs, times different casters that are underneath it, times different times. You end up with 100,000 options on that alone. And we realized, so your question was the inception. We're like, ooh, we're getting these questions from customers, but you can bring these products to life with photography. Like you're not going to take pictures. That's what they do literally. 99% of
Yep.
you'd be shocked. It's a photo studio where, it's like, well, what do you think, Stephanie? I think the black one and the white one, we ran some data,
Yep.
take some pictures of the chair. That's it. We're like, you got to automate that. And so we are able to, and so this is where the founder of Threekit, Ben Houston, comes in. He was a major supplier of visual effects to Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
And so we knew that to unlock this space, it had to deal with complex products, which we know really well for like 20 years now. And the other side, though, it has to be beautiful, it has to be picture perfect, has to be like Pixar,
Mm-hmm.
but for products, and it has to be automated. So you can generate these hundreds and thousands of either options in 3D or AR, and it still knows what the product is. What it
Mm-hmm.
can be is just a piece of art. It's not a visual effect that you play and then it doesn't do anything. It's not a complex product structure that we understand, but it doesn't look good. It has to be both. So that's what we put together. And so to answer your question, that's kind of really unique in a SaaS platform, in a headless platform. It integrates to everything. It's really, really hard to do, crack that nut. And we did it. But then it's about, well, show me your products. Could be jewelry, rings, could be that microphone, that chair. And then maybe it's in 3D where you want an immersive experience. And then, by the way, I do want to see it in augmented reality. Oh, by the way, I'd like to see it maybe renders, like we can do at scale render them into lifestyle photography, right? Like where it's like a digital movie, just the product's a star. So instead of doing photo shoots, you can do that. Virtual reality. Now we don't do any of these things, but the hardest part is get the product into that state to be able to participate,
Mm-hmm.
if that makes sense. So
Yeah.
that's kind of AR that's awesome, but it's like the end
Once you
point.
have your product ready.
That's the end point. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's very interesting hearing about you blending in, movie industry with commerce, bringing these different, expertises. Were there any surprising moments when maybe you've got, the designers over here who are like, I'm used to things being at this quality level. Then you've got the commerce people who are like, I've been taking pictures my whole life. Like, was there anything surprising trying to get those two fields working together to build what you have today?
Um, I think the surprising was what a big gulf there is between them.
Yep.
There is literally like they have to work together and we can help them there, but it is two different worlds. Um, I see the other one that blew my mind when that's why we decided to really build Threekit is how good digital is now. I think
Mm-hmm.
when we decided that there's something here where like it's got to be beautiful and picture perfect, and I'll have to admit myself because I've seen some early like digital 3D work early on, it just didn't look good. So
Yep.
my perception was that was maybe the surprise. That was my biggest. It's like it's gonna look gamey
Mm-hmm.
or whatever you want to call that, and cartoony,
Yep.
or anyway. And the reality is, it you literally can't tell, and that's kind of
Mm-hmm.
that blew me away. Like 99% of folks who've not worked in this industry just don't know how good it is. And unfortunately, ever since I've gotten into it, I mean, we don't do movies, but just drawing on that expertise,
Hmm.
I can see movies again. Like not that I'm an expert on movies,
Now
it's
you're
just you
nitpicky.
see it now and it's like, wow, like
Yep.
it's that good. So that's probably that was my biggest surprise. It's a wonderful tool to have, but majority of folks just don't know that.
Yeah. So then it makes me think, I feel like, I mean, just like you said, I think that, it's going to look gamey, or I've had an experience before where it kind of ruined it for me. I'm wondering right now if we are ruining any consumer trying to enter VR worlds and thinking about the metaverse and getting into these different platforms, that they're having an experience there that maybe is not what, you would like to see. Like, because now you have this whole new level of expectation of what the products and the things should look like to actually feel real and look real and be able to zoom in and see all the, the details and the stitching and whatever it may be. I'm wondering if a portion of people are going to kind of write off, this new future that's coming for a while because of the subpar experience that they're probably having. I mean, someone showed me a virtual shopping experience the other day and I was like, ew, that's even worse than, like that actually makes it way worse trying to get me in there. I don't want to do that. Do you ever think about that of like,
I
if we're going to lose
do,
a certain
and I
portion of them?
do. And the one thing, maybe just to cap off the other one, and I'll jump into this one, is I think what's more, like, some of your viewers will be surprised. They actually purchased goods already on the internet. They were designed purely digitally, maybe in Threekit, let's just say, hopefully, and then purchased with a credit card, fully digital. Now, so what happens, the actual product shows up, looks just like it, but I just want to say that there's products being bought right now. I had friends where I'm like, oh, this is a customer. Like, oh my gosh, I had no idea. And you
Hmm.
just don't. So my only point where we're talking about that metaverse, in some ways, we're already living in it,
Yeah.
because that was a purely digital transaction, digital product, digital transaction done digitally. And yes, the real deal will show up and it looks exactly like it. So you don't return it. You love it. You buy more. Anyway, that's that story.
Hmm.
Um, it's interesting about the shopping experience. I agree with you. I don't know that we know what to do with it yet. I think there's some powerful ideas. This to me reminds me very much of the internet. I know that's a cliche thing to say. It's going to be real. It's going to be a big, big deal. And exactly how it's still shaking out, which is a natural process.
Hmm.
And to give you perspective on your question, I don't proclaim to be an expert on virtual shopping, but I think to replicate the real world with these powerful tools, I think we can do better. Like, we could do stores, that's cool, but I think we could do so much more with digital. Like there is, like if you're into something, a theme, or let's say a movie, like maybe it's a, digital theme park that gets you really into it. And by the way, you can buy products in it just to kind of vibe on that. Maybe it's
Hmm.
not a gift shop at the end of the digital store with random stuff, like
Yep.
immerse me in it. So
Yep.
that's when I hear you say that. That's where I feel like, we haven't fully embraced yet, like the opportunity digital gives you. We're trying to recreate
Yep.
which in
I was
some
just
ways I
gonna
think
say
is
that.
maybe a good thing. That could be really cool. In
Yeah.
some ways we can do much better. I think we're still figuring out how. That makes
Yep.
sense.
No, yeah. I mean, I was just thinking about the store experience and I've probably said this on a previous episode before, but they had shelves. And I was like, why do you need shelves if you're in a virtual world? You don't need shelves. Like, why are we recreating things that are just, here, but then it's just subpar? I'd rather just go to the store and look at it than have some bad, design that feels very fake and gamey. I like the idea of how do you, immerse the person wherever they are, though. I mean, that definitely seems like the way of the future, but I don't know if we even understand our human behaviors and consumption patterns and then how to actually make, seems like now we're finally at a place that we can make the products look real and good and actually interact with the world. And but yeah, just thinking about like how do you blend these industries together to make that a better experience and, pull in Roblox, pull in their design principles, pull
Totally
in all the
agree.
things that they're doing into commerce. And that's where I think the magic can happen is if you start looking around at what other industries that are moving a lot quicker, gaming moving way quicker than commerce, like how can you pull them into the fold to be able to learn best practices and then have a way better experience is actually meeting the customer where they are now and in the future and not trying to push them back in the box of the shopping mall experience or wherever they might not want to go anymore.
Agreed. And I think you still like need commerce because at some point you got to transact it. It's kind of what
Yeah.
our view is as well. Like we visualize the product, but at some point you want to buy it, or maybe it's a pure digital product too. That's cool too. NFT world, here we come. We're doing that, so we totally get that. But I agree with you. I think there is this place for like replicating a real experience. That's cool. I think it has to be done really well though. It has to be better than the real deal, and there's ways to do that. But the other ones like movies, I go there in my mind. But like I think games are going to be huge. There'll be many metaverses, and but games in some ways, like we all will spend a lot of time in whatever those are, and that's a perfect way to engage. But also theme based. When I think of like shopping experiences, let's say Star Wars, let's say the old Star Wars. If you got me into a store where I'm like replaying, let's say short sequence, and then there's a
Hmm.
bunch of stuff to go with it that's customized, personalized, I'm
You're
in.
in.
Like that's a digital
Uh-huh.
theme park, like versus the gift store at the end of a theme park. So I'm like,
Yep.
you got me. Like maybe it's custom jewelry. I mean, I'm just making it up. A lightsaber with your name on it, you get shipped, or maybe it's purely digital. Could be an NFT lightsaber, but
Yep.
you have me in this moment of experience. Um, that's kind of where I see some of that going.
Hmm.
I'd fall for it. I'd love it.
Yeah. No, I'm already thinking about a bunch of different ideas of how I would enjoy it a lot more while I'm like in the middle of the experience or watching whatever it may be. So
Exactly.
you mentioned NFTs. I want to hear your thoughts on, what are you all doing around NFTs? What do you think about the NFT craze right now?
Well, I mean, that's similar. It's very early. I think it's real. It's here to stay in what forms. I mean, there's so many forms. We could spend an hour on this.
Hmm.
Um, but I think our view is we're a product company, right? So we deal with brands and manufacturers. And I think what's really interesting is we talked about the metaverse and NFTs. Let me just state one statement. Just saying that, like, regardless where you want to go with either of those, most brands and manufacturers like, oh wow, we haven't even gotten to e-commerce yet.
Yeah.
So that's when I point that observation out. Like, there's a lot of usefulness in that conversation, which is, well, heck, if you're not even like, what's your path there, and even knowing what to do and not to do, I think it
Mhm.
forces everyone to really think about like, what do we want to be? Anyway, I just
Yep.
want to say that.
Yeah.
And many are not even taking full advantage of like Web 2.0.
Yeah. So
So
essentially, if your
just
product's not even optimized right now, if it doesn't even look good on your page, people can't have customization to it. You probably shouldn't jump to the next thing, the next
well,
new world.
but you see it. So that's really, I think you nailed it. You could have a massive factory, but if you don't have a digital version of your product, you don't exist.
Hmm.
You just don't exist. So just everyone should know that. Like if you don't have a way to exist, and there you don't, and maybe you choose not to be part of that. That's cool. But for sure with e-commerce, you have to be part of that. Because
Yeah.
as you mentioned, the Murphy bed, I mean, once you experience once a true picture perfect visual configurator with AR that looks like what you're getting, it's really hard to make that purchase next time without that. You're going to
Yep.
notice something's missing. You're like,
Yep.
I'm not going to spend whatever money you spend. Back to
I
that.
bought a couch and it had one image on Instagram. That's what sold me. And then I hop over to the website and it was like a whole different blue color. And I was like, well, I think it's the same one. And I ended up buying it and it was. But I remember being like, wow, I bet a lot of people dropped off when they saw this beautiful image on Instagram, light bluish color. And then you go on your page and it looks like this dark blue, almost black. And you just have to hope that they're the same one because they're called the same thing. Like, but I didn't even think much about it. I mean,
And
this
it's
was maybe a
fascinating you
year
say
ago.
that. Let me flip it on you a little bit. Let's just have fun with this one if you
Yeah.
want.
Yeah.
So this is also kind of that existing digitally, right? Because so you fell in love with the couch, awesome. But let's pretend you fell in love with another similar couch, but the experience is just awesome.
Hmm.
I would go to where I have more security and safety. I mean, it's a
For
natural
sure.
human condition. So I think that's the other
Yeah.
thing. Like the experience itself, obviously, we talked about website experiences, but the product, can I feel it digitally? We call digital feel. Can I really? If I do, that may be where I go next. Because right
Hmm.
now we're just in this new frontier mode. And so maybe back to NFTs, that's kind of that. Like, what do you want to be? Like, there's so many ways to do it, but the conversations we're having with brands and manufacturers is hey, we have a factory. Like, could we do limited editions? Could we create um things that then later you can buy, but they're special, like they're based crypto,
Hmm.
um, limited editions of sorts. Now, long term, you could take them with you. So as the metaverse is shaping, right, you could
Yep.
take them into a game. If it's a 3D one, you could just have it and or have purely digital goods. I mean, this is the fascinating story. Um, there was a shoe company that was purely digital. Can't buy those shoes. That was sold.
What do you do with said shoe that you
Right?
can't buy? You just have the
Digital
design?
shoes. Well, in the
Oh.
metaverse, you can
Oh,
already
in the
do it.
metaverse. Okay. I thought you were like buying an NFT of a digital shoe and you could just look at it all day.
Well,
Not
that
actually
too.
wear.
So I think there's like, I think for us to like, I just, the only way I can get at this is that our angle is more like we work with these brands manufacturers. They're like, wait a minute, metaverse, yeah, it's going to take some time to get there, but I think I wouldn't underestimate that. It
Yep.
asks the questions for like, how do we exist digitally? How do people experience me? And then, yeah, where they take it from here, we'll explore together, Stephanie, like who knows,
Yep.
but maybe there'll be an amazing brand in the metaverse that sells shoes, apparel, watches, or cars that doesn't even exist real. I mean, I don't
Hmm.
know,
Yeah. I
you
mean, hey,
know?
that's already working in, all the games the kids are playing and all the virtual things that they're buying right now. So it's already here. I think it might not just be happening with my
Exactly.
friends and I, but it's already here. So, okay, when thinking about what brand should maybe be focusing on today, like maybe the basics aren't even covered yet, and we need to like hone in on some of those. How could I think about ROI when just, implementing simple things like making sure the product looks good and, you can spin it and have the customizations and the colors? Like, what have you seen on your side when a brand comes and works with you? Like, what simple things do they implement? And I say simple as in maybe
Yeah.
from the consumer perspective, it's like, oh, yeah, that was a simple fix. Thank you. But like, what ROI do these brands see from making these changes?
Yeah. And I would say what we've seen as a pattern is if you have consideration items, and I say those are, I'm not talking about a pen that comes in two colors, and it's $1.99,
Hmm.
that's cool. But I'm talking about some meaningful people make decisions on. What we've seen is this: if you put in, if you create a digital feel, like visual configuration, and then let them experience it, what's most natural. AR is not for everybody. Like not everyone needs AR, but
Yeah.
that's just one way to do it, or 3D, or the product photography. The customers don't talk mumbo jumbo. They're not like, oh, 3D visual configurator with renderings. They're like, hey, this is a product I like and I'll buy it. And the
Hmm.
ROI is actually super compelling. Like we've got case studies where customers of ours meet their annual number in 2 months.
Wow.
And
Just from changing the product pages.
the percentages are off the charts, and people
Hmm.
are like, oh, I don't believe it. It's like, well, no, it's real, because you have to take a step back and think this. Stephanie, you and I have a store. Let's say we sell sporting goods, and then the website's
What's
a
its name?
website.
What's the store's name? We got to make sure we're
Oh,
aligned
what do you
here,
want to do
Matt.
it? What do you want to do it? What do you want to call it?
Oh, I don't know. I feel like you're more creative here. Let's think. Call it Barton Springs.
Oh,
Just
interesting.
Austin vibes.
Is that the golf? Perfect. That's
Close
it.
enough. See, exactly.
I
You're
love it.
wondering now,
I
like,
love
which
it.
way am I going to go? Am I going to jump in the springs or am I playing golf?
And friends will
Perfect
call
name.
it the Springs, so we'll
The
have fun with it.
Springs. There you
Perfect.
go.
So we have Barton Springs, and we have these, and let's say we manufacture these products, and I work for you, and I run the e-commerce operation, and you're like, Matt, we got to sell more. Okay, I've got millions of rows of product SKUs, and I have no pictures for them, and there, even if I did, you can't experience it. So I have an empty digital shelf. So when you look at the other way, like literally our products don't exist on our website. So how are
Yep.
they supposed to buy it? So this is the very kind of obvious way. If you and I worked at a store together, the front end way for me to talk about visual configuration, digital feel, really customers like, look, I don't see it here.
Yeah.
I see it here. I see all these options. Usually for the first time, this is where the customer sees the true shelf full. Like, oh, you've got this cool color. Pretend you like my shirt, okay? Like you like this color.
I
I
like it.
find it now, I couldn't see it because there's too many options. We couldn't maintain it. Now I
Hmm.
see it on my couch or sporting goods, we said, my golf bag.
Yeah.
Boy, that's what I want. And what happens is you're like, I want this. And you go through the site, you buy more of it. Cause as you know, had you gone in a furniture example to, let's say, another furniture brand that you really loved just as much, but the experience is a killer, you just
Yeah.
keep buying there. You get stuff back. That's what I want. I'm just going to go there. It's
Hmm.
that's the basics really of what I would recommend to everyone. For consideration goods you're missing out because you're not showing your products. Like the idea of I have e-commerce, that's not e-commerce anymore. You have an empty shelf. So
Hmm.
that's maybe the way I would explain that.
Yeah.
Start there.
How many, I mean, how much potential do you think there is right now of companies who are not even digital? I mean, you're saying in the very beginning, oh, if someone doesn't want to choose that route, one, I'm like, well, why not? But two, like, what kind of untapped potential do you think there is of companies who have not even come online to start? I mean, have you guys looked into this? And then on top of that, optimizing their product, that's a whole other thing. But what's kind of out there waiting right now?
We have, and it's massive. And what has happened is with the pandemic, a couple of things have happened. Obviously, I'm not here to tell you about the pandemic and what it did to e-commerce. I mean, everyone talks about it, but for the first time ever, it kind of sent a memo to the vendors saying, "Hey, we're all consumers too, by the way, right? At the same time, buying higher. I have personally have talked to many friends, bought higher item goods online I've ever done. I'm
Hmm.
pretty sure I'm going to make a bet before the pandemic. You may have not bought that Murphy bed online. It's like, I'll
Yep.
go find a store.
Hmm.
The threshold's way up. Okay. And with that, the memo is also, I want to see all your products. I kind of like online. So there's that pressure,
Yep.
right? That's building. So 99% are on that journey. Like, wait a minute. And there's FOMO by industry. In
Hmm.
furniture, they're really thinking ahead because that's a high consideration, beautiful object where if you have a bit of digital experience, you will make more money.
Yeah.
Um, the other side of it is, which I find also fascinating, I just spoke at a B2B conference. So think of like forklifts, compressors.
Yep.
Because of the pandemic and all this stuff we know, the buyer of that forklift, again, med tech device, stuff companies buy, is now sitting at home. And for whatever reason, it's a kind of a boring B2B site because you sit in a cube, but now I'm sitting at home. I just bought a
Yep.
couch or tailor-made driver powered by Threekit. It looks awesome. And now I'm going to this portal one tab away. All I get is part numbers. Why is it
Hmm.
so? And I got told a scientific example, such a crappy experience. Why is that?
Yep.
That's the other thing, that jarring, it's all the same.
Hmm.
So
Yep. I just was talking to a guy at a conference, and his whole company that he's building is bringing large, heavy, hard to sell products into e-commerce. So think like buying a gondola via, e-commerce experience.
sure.
Just things that you never normally would do where you're like, that's too heavy. I don't know how it would get here. And it's funny because that's how we used to think about furniture and beds. They can't ship it here, they can't get it here. And it started making me think about how much potential there is to bring things online and, you know, yeah, transact things in a way that we haven't been able to in the
It's
past, or maybe
immense.
just we limited ourselves thinking we couldn't do it, but
We
we
just
can.
scratched the surface because the excuse was it's too complicated. And I was
Yep.
part of that conversation. That's kind of maybe full circle back.
Hmm.
When we started the journey, it's like, oh, it's too complicated. Product's too complex. Yeah, you can't do visually that beautiful. That's Hollywood 2000,
Yeah.
where, but it's all democratized now. You can handle complexity. It can look picture perfect. So it's kind of the convergence. And so to your point, the reason I bought in B2B is just to even expand the lens a bit. It's a
Hmm.
huge deal for consumer. It's a huge deal for B2B. It's a huge market, that's just starting
Yep.
to get going now. So
Yeah, I agree. All right, last question. What are you most excited about over the coming year? It can be with Threekit, it can be in Matt's personal life, wherever you want to take it.
so from a business side, I will say it feels really exciting to see this all unfold. And part of it, obviously, we're part of this. We're building a category, which I mentioned, visual configuration, but also being part of this conversation of metaverse NFT. We are an on ramp to it. but yet 99% of the companies we work with are just getting onto Web 2.0 and seeing that all unfold. I will tell you, it's fascinating to be like in that sort of, I don't know, it's this giant building wave and kind of see it all come together and shape it for what we can. But it's a massive thing. So I'd say that really is exciting. Part of where we are right now. So that gets me juiced up in the morning. And we love doing that.
Awesome. Well, Matt, thank you so much for coming on the show. This has been great. Where can people learn more about you and Threekit?
So if you're interested, love for you to come to our website, Threekit.com. And there's actually Threekit.com shop, which is some examples of our customers, B2C, B2B, just for fun. Stephanie, if you have some time.
I will check it out.
Yep. Or obviously look me up on LinkedIn and ping me. So I'd love to talk to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
If you're looking for the #1 platform for all things commerce, there's no better choice. So go check out salesforce.com/commerce.